Welcome to Cut Daisies and Unicorns, and we are here in the studio, and it's a summertime in the city of Chicago.
It is summertime. Does everybody miss, like when you say that?
Yeah.
Does anyone out there miss when I come in with my little cartoon voice? Unicorns! Because in my head, every time you say that now, from the very first time that I did it, I'm like, I want to go, unicorns, unicorns, and we don't have reverb. I need to figure out how to throw reverb.
Throw reverb on there.
Coming at you live from Chicago.
Unicorn.
Yeah. Hot
Yeah.
town, summer in the city.
Yeah, there's apparently a heat wave going throughout the nation. So, like yesterday, apparently they had some record heats elsewhere. I mean, I don't think we had any record heat. I mean, it was still warm, but it wasn't. I mean, it was I think it hit 90 or 92, but
I'm amazed at the difference of what can happen within like 14 miles. I drive 14 miles north.
Yeah.
Yesterday, I mean, walking down the hallway to go to the bathroom, I would pit out because the humidity was so high down here.
Right.
And I got up north, and I'm like, it's still the same degrees as hot, but the humidity. And so, but I think, yeah, tornadoes
You're
in
probably
Chicago.
closer to the lake, so you got a little bit of.
Yeah, I mean, we're
There's a little bit of a shift in temperature, probably, and humidity too.
But I mean, we can have clouds, and I can come down here, and there's puddles.
Yeah.
I mean, so there's definitely a bandwidth going on our latitude or our longitude.
Right. There are funny things happening here in
Weather patterns.
Right.
Weather patterns. I'm telling you, when you talk about the weather, and we start that out. It's a good way to kind of warm up in the conversation. No pun intended. I'm not that smart. But the thing is that oftentimes when we talk about starting a conversation,
yeah.
People go to the commonality. I know the folk down in Texas. Shout out Aunt Linda. Woo, woo.
Aunt Linda.
Yeah, down in Waco.
Yeah.
And
not there. We learned at the live show was not there when David Koresh and the. Well, I mean they're still there, but
yeah,
obviously not David Koresh.
The Koreshians, not the Kardashians.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But and then Adam and Michaela.
Yeah.
Down in Austin, Texas.
Oh, they're in Austin. I
No,
thought they were in San Antonio.
They are in San Antonio.
Like,
that's me doing just brain fart shit.
All right. Because I was just thinking, I'm like, Austin is like, I mean, it'd be a cool spot. There's
they're not
lots
a
of
far
things happening in Austin.
They're not a far drive from Austin. I think like an hour or less than an hour, but San Antonio. Yeah, and so Texas, and and I'm sorry. I'm not saying this to rub it in. I'm just saying this for people who are worried about. There's nobody worried about my quality of life. I'm pretty sure. But yeah. Definitely, we talked about it last night. We're doing a beach hang.
Yeah.
Tomorrow. Or, hold it. No. Saturday.
Oh, for Saturday.
Yeah,
okay.
Saturday. So, have, do you remember ever, do you have those silicone muffin wrappers?
I know what you're talking about. We usually just use paper, though.
But
the silicone ones would be probably a helpful addition.
They're really, really good.
Yeah.
And what I would say is you get the giant muffin ones.
Yeah.
Because that holds enough eggs for a good serving.
Mm-hmm.
But
bless you.
Excuse me. But mix up your favorite scrambled egg recipe.
Yeah.
Whatever that looks like. and then you pour it in the silicone holders.
Yeah.
That way you don't have to clean out the pan.
Uh-huh.
You don't have to make a muffin pan dirty.
Right.
Because these things with the silicone, I want to say Silicon Valley, but is silicone.
Right.
I don't know.
That thing.
For anybody wondering, we're shooting almost an hour and a half earlier than normal.
Right.
And I have
So our
had
brains are not catching up yet.
2 cups of coffee. But on food, the cool thing is you can freeze that after it's baked, and then you just throw that in the microwave. You can warm it up. Eggs, good protein.
Right. Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned that because so Heather gets on these little kick things here and there. So she'll like do some, like go.
So you're saying it's not a Bruce Lee power kick?
No, but she'll go on these.
It's a little kick?
Yeah, it's just a little kick. So she's been getting these dragon fruit refreshers at Dunkin' Donuts because she doesn't drink coffee. And she'll do these egg bites. Now I'm always looking at like, I mean, these they got 2 little egg bites and they're like $5.50. And I was like, I think I could make those. And she said, but these are in a donut shaped. And I'm like, really? Like, but so here's the thing. So then Amazon has the mini donut tins.
Nice.
And so I'm like, I do the scrambled, mix it up, and she gets it with bacon. So like just getting some bacon, cutting it up, throwing it in there, and doing the same thing. It's it's like this big,
dude.
Yeah,
I'm telling you, when I was at Aldi, we've talked about Aldi here before.
Right.
When I was at Aldi, and I used to be a brat snob, and I still am. Like, Hy-Vee had a great deal on brats, and you could get the cheese jalapeno.
Yeah.
Mariano's, one of the, it's the best meat counter that I've found in Chicagoland. Now, I'm not saying there isn't,
good.
I'm not saying that there isn't better.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't found it. It just means that, speaking back to you don't know what you don't know,
right?
I don't know of a better place. So if any listeners from local Chicagoland, which I don't know that we have any, I mean, other than our native core tribe,
right?
Yeah. But I'm telling you that. So I bought the party pack because I freeze meat anyway. I'm like in this like 1920s stage. I actually had one of my buddies from back in the day. He grew up. His mom grew up through the Great Depression.
Yeah.
And so he never got to eat fresh bread. And he'd always say, "Mom, why can't I have what you just baked?" Because she'd bake bread every day, right?
Yeah.
But the bread would go into the bread cupboard, and they would have to eat the day-old bread. She goes, "If I let you eat fresh bread, you would eat it all up. But we need 1 loaf for the whole family per day."
Right.
And so I thought, that's really, and when you're baking bread, and I'm not talking sourdough, so don't go pandemic sourdough shit on me. I'm saying when you bake fresh bread.
Yeah, that was real popular in the pandemic.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Fresh bread will mold quickly because of the yeast and all the stuff going on,
right.
And things like that. So you got to manage so you don't have loss when you're making it and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But I'm going back to, I bought the party pack because I looked, and based on their pricing, you get 2 more brats and you save $2.
Wow.
That's like double savings.
I know.
I think it was like $4.99. So that'd be $10, right?
Right.
I think it was only $6.49. I mean, it's better than, and you get 2 more brats.
Wow. Seems like a no-brainer.
So you get 2 6s. Instead of 2 5s or 1 5.
And these are at the counter, or these are still in the?
No, this is at Aldi.
Oh, it's at Aldi.
In the meat section.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So that one's somewhat of a crapshoot. You never know what's going to be out there or what they're going to have. So
it's been pretty consistent on the brat side.
Okay. All right.
But to your point, to find the cheap chicken breast
Right.
at the really great price. I've been in there every Tuesday for the last 3 weeks. No cheap.
Gone.
Yeah, I have to buy the next step up, which I'm fine with. It's still cheaper than buying chicken breast at, Mariano's.
Right.
But to your point, you can get center cut or thick cut bacon at Aldi for $8, 14 ounce. I'd call it a pound, but it's not because everybody's downsizing while they're raising their prices.
It's true.
But you could do that, and then and make these donut bites. The cool thing is you could go to town. You could say, you know what, I'm going to do breakfast prep for the next week. Heather, how many of these donut bites do you eat? When she's stopping.
She eats 2.
Okay, she eats 2.
Like this big.
Well, so you only need to make 10 for 5, or you need to make 14 for 7 days. And but yeah, and I put a little onion and a little bit of pepper, and
it's like a little omelet.
I was using turkey burger as the meat protein to drop in, but I wanted it to taste like breakfast sausage, so I put some sage.
Oh.
Yeah, see what I'm doing there?
That's good.
A little cracked black pepper. It was so good. That was breakfast Sunday. But yeah. So there's that. Now, another great discovery, because we talked about my change of eating plan last week.
Right.
All right. Now, for the record, it's going very well. It's going very well.
Right.
But I have something that I stumbled on that I wasn't planning on being so cool or great.
Yeah.
And that is my second cup of coffee. I put in heavy whipping heavy cream.
Yeah.
I think it's called heavy whipping cream.
It is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Which you and I'm going to go towards some nihilism here.
Yeah.
All
I
right.
don't mind.
All right.
I would probably sometimes,
Classify
veer
yourself
towards that anyways.
So not only are you're not a socialist. What is the political party?
Libertarian.
Libertarian. So as a libertarian nihilist.
Right. Nothing matters.
So ultimately, when you become the person who is the chef, the sous cook, or the sous chef, the cook, the meal preparer, the person who's dealing with all of the ingredients, okay?
Right.
This is what leads to food nihilism. It's all the same shit.
Same ingredients.
It's all the same ingredients.
Right.
People are like, oh, how did you make that? That tastes so good. I'm like, they're all the same ingredients.
Right. You just buy the same stuff.
But they're like, so what's different between meatloaf and tacos? Well, I don't use stuffing in tacos, right? But yeah, but the major part of difference is just seasoning.
Yep.
All right, now, go with me for a minute.
Here we go.
What do you use to make ice cream?
I usually don't make ice cream.
Oh, shit. All right.
But I would use heavy whipping cream.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah. If I was going to make ice cream, that's what I would use is heavy whipping cream.
All right. Yeah. Now, I think when we did our cooking show, didn't we do the heavy whipping cream?
I used heavy whipping cream for my roux.
Yes.
For the mac and cheese.
But didn't we also make butter that day?
I think we did make.
And I was like, oh, you can make butter with this. Yeah. And then I whipped it up, and then it turned watery, and then I'm like, no, we just got to keep going with this, and stuff like that. Yeah, yeah. So when you think about, like, all of these gimmick diets and stuff,
right?
What do they talk about doing with coffee? They're like, put this butter into your coffee.
Yeah.
Okay.
Bullet coffee.
All right. And what's the point? The point is that there's fat there that satiates you so that your appetite doesn't get out of whack. Right? So I was reading the back because, hey, folks, if you don't know how to read, This is a shout out that
Literacy is good.
Yeah, literacy is good. Find a local literacy club and learn to read.
Right.
And if you know how to read but you're not reading, this is a call. Hey, we're always talking about how can humans become better.
Right.
Reading.
Right. And we talked about Dave Grohl's book last week. So, I mean, like, there's some reading that's a part of this. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm reading the back.
All right. So you got the back.
Do you know how many carbs are in heavy whipping cream?
No.
0.
Oh.
0 carbs in heavy whipping cream.
So where does they always talk about the unhealthy nature of heavy whipping? So would it be the fats or?
I think it would be in the fats. But right now, in my body, and I'm becoming the nutritionist, scientist, person who's never been educated on this.
Right.
Okay? I'm speaking, so if you want to grab onto your nihilism as a listener, what I'm speaking to is I have no clue what I'm talking about.
But you have done some of the work on it, just not the research.
But this is why I'm an experiential theologian. What I've also done is I've done a lot of different fad diets.
Right.
I mean, I'm 55 years old.
You've gone through a lot.
I mean, when Atkins was brand new, I was in my teens.
Yeah.
All right? And then keto. I still haven't done keto. Now, somebody would argue that I'm doing keto right now, except...
Because it's low carbs or no carbs.
Low carb, no carb. Yeah. But I would argue, oh, no, I'm not, because I had a turkey sandwich on Monday, and it was with sliced deli meat, Miracle Whip, and it was on low-sodium bread. Now, that's an oxymoron in itself,
Right.
because the deli turkey that I had was skyrocketing with sodium.
Right.
And so, but because of blood pressure, my doctor put me on the Mediterranean diet, which is actually research and dialogue through Mayo Clinic, blah, blah, blah. But the first time I did that, that's when I had a substantial post-40-year-old weight loss.
Yeah.
That's a lot different than having weight loss when you're 19 to 23.
Right.
That is called biological maturity. You know how little boys are kind of pudgy when they're 10 and 11, but then they go through that really big growth spurt, and all of a sudden their little pudgy cheeks aren't pudgy anymore, and they look like young men?
They kind of thin out, yeah.
Oh, yeah, but then there's the transition between 19 and 25 when, like, there's the peak. Testosterone is at its height. Your activity's at its height. I mean, even if you're not running for health, you're running in life, you know. But I come back to so it's 50 calories. So if by the time I get done with my second cup of coffee, and I'm dosing heavy whipping cream, I'm figuring it's 100 to 150 calories. Listen, I'm still short 100 calories compared to a Snickers candy bar. And I'm not talking about snack size, party size, bite size. I was not expecting. I did it because I was doing an iced coffee, and instead of going down to Pete's and getting an iced coffee, I thought, you know what, I'm just going to do, and there's where I save. I can buy a half gallon of iced coffee for $5.49 at Aldi, and that lasts me it's my week's worth of coffee.
Are those the ones that are in the like a jug of?
Yeah, and it's back on the back shelf. Now, what I would say, my next point of reading is I'm going to look at the mocha and look at the caramel. I'm going to look at the sugar contents along. Here's the thing: there's no grams of sugar in heavy whipping cream. That's the difference between half and half and heavy whipping cream. There's where your carbs are missing,
right?
You know, so yeah, man. Well, then think about it. If you take ice and you pour heavy whipping cream over ice, what do you get? A congealed cold whipping cream. It's like having ice cream but you haven't
whipped it.
you haven't churned it in
Right.
the ice cream maker, right? You see where I'm going with this?
Mm-hmm.
So I basically get a breakfast sundae. But it fills my my appetite until 1:30 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Now,
Yeah.
I say that in respect, and most people who know me will be like, you don't eat until 2:30 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon anyway. I'm like, yeah, that was during a time when I'm getting up at 9 o'clock to 10 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
And it's about breakfast time or lunch time at that time. I mean, I've been getting up at 6:30, 7 o'clock all week long, but having this, and oh my gosh. And by the absence of carbs, so now what's happening, because you'd say, well, that fat's bad for you. Is it? Because it's a natural fat.
Right.
And what my body's doing is it's burning the fat that's easier to get to, which is all the carb fat that I have stored.
Right.
And I'm not supplying or over-carbing my body, which means that my body has to figure out what to do with all this sugar, carbness from processed carbs. And it's like, oh, but we need energy. Let's pull it from your body. So that's the nihilism, sarcastic change of eating, and I don't. So I'm saying all of that to come back to, it doesn't matter how you chop up the food. It doesn't matter what it is.
Right.
I mean, so you can take turkey burger and make turkey sausage. Why? You just add sage and a little salt and pepper. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
It's all the same thing.
Yeah, I did ground pork burgers this week.
Nice.
So, yeah. Less fat,
Yep.
burns quicker. So
Yeah.
yeah, we'll see. I have been. I mean, I've switched to a less red, more white.
Yeah.
So more chicken, more pork. I have, some reason Heather doesn't like ground turkey, but I would probably prefer to use turkey. But yeah,
Have you tried ground chicken with Heather?
no,
You should try ground chicken. It's super, super lean.
yeah,
And the other thing is like, there's where I would, it'd be interesting, is a combo of your ground pork with ground chicken. Typically, Aldi has a 2-pound ground turkey that's 80/15,
yeah,
but they have a 1-pound ground turkey that's 97.3 or 95.5.
oh, that's real lean.
Yeah, and so usually, because I like my tacos a little drippy,
Mm-hmm.
I end up going with the 85/15. We'll see how fast the next pounds fall off, and there's at that point, as my body mass index, right?
Yep.
Yep.
BMI.
The
yeah.
BMI.
Mm-hmm.
As my body mass index leans out, then I may have to adjust. But that's why we're nimble,
Right.
is because you can't keep doing the same thing. And actually,
It's true. Don't.
I'll report back to see if I've reached my first plateau, because your body also, this is really interesting. I don't know if we talked about historic trauma being held within the body.
I think we might have mentioned it, but yeah. But
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
true.
Yeah. So, and so your body also stores a memory
Mhm.
of what it carries.
Yep.
And so, like, I have 3 plateaus that I know of on my descent, and actually, my next one will be 205, and then and 195. And people would say, the last time I got down near 190, people were wondering if I had cancer.
Right. That happened to me too.
Yeah.
I was at around 200. So.
Yeah. And so, but you know, and I told Amy, I'm like, hey, I'm committed to not having an eating disorder. Really, you know, it's just a shift in mentality, and quite frankly, and in our home, we're calling it cutting carbs to the curb.
So you even have a theme.
Oh yeah,
Got a theme in the household.
do a little party parade. We're kicking carbs to the curb.
So for tacos, are you using low carb tortillas, or are you just doing corn since they're less fat?
Here's the deal. I haven't done tacos since I changed my eating habits.
Okay.
So I think where I'm going to go with it is I'm going to offer, because I started making enchiladas, and I really, really like enchiladas and flour shells.
Tortillas, yeah.
Yeah. And so I'm going to try it with corn and see how it goes. I'm going to take a look at that whole thing.
Yeah.
It may be... do you remember the 7-layer salad from when you're back in the day when you were going to potlucks at church?
Yeah.
So I'm thinking about how to incorporate a 7-layer salad for the flavors of Mexican.
Yeah.
And then what you can do is you got your chips. You got your corn chips, and you can take a look at your grams of carbs and stuff like that. And apparently I heard from a friend who heard it from a friend from a friend who that if you keep your carb grams below 80 grams a day.
Yeah.
And so I'm not tracking it, like I've got this little app program on my phone, but it'll be interesting to see what my phone shows me for the rest of the day and into the weekend after this conversation.
Yeah. So there's a place that's right here on Sunnyside.
Okay.
If you take Sunnyside right at Kedzie, so it's a nice little walk. But it's called Machete's Big Quesadillas. So they got like these foot-long quesadillas, but they're in corn tortillas. I've never had anybody do a giant corn tortilla quesadilla before. Most of the time when you're doing quesadillas, it's all flour.
I thought quesadilla was flour folded and all that. So it's like a taquito.
Almost, yeah.
But it's
almost
but
like
it's big round.
Yeah, they still folded. I mean, so it looks like it's pretty much folded like this, and it's probably about that long. And you can fill it with all kinds of stuff. So they have asada, they've got pork, they've got chicken, they've got this. I mean, and then of course cheese. But so I'm assuming that the calorie content on those are also not great, but they're probably better than if you were doing a flour tortilla. So, but if you're ever interested,
Machete's,
yeah.
All right.
Anyway, yeah, it was good. They have good good stuff.
I had barbecued. This was a catch, and might be something that if Heather doesn't like ground turkey, Costco, had turkey tenders.
Like a chicken tender?
Yes.
Okay.
Which, in my head, I don't know how a chicken tender is different than a chicken breast, other than a chicken breast cut up into tenders.
Right.
Maybe somebody can help me out with that. There's not a loin of the chicken. It's not a chicken tender loin.
Right.
So anyway, yeah, this was turkey breast that was cut up, and what I will tell you is it is so lean that it barbecued very quickly. And my experience with it on my first barbecue was I overdid it.
Yeah.
Like I hit the chicken this week, 165 on the spot, pulled off and didn't over. I'm like, it's moist and like fantastic.
Yeah.
But another thing to look for, because again, when you pair off, Now, I did pick up New York strips, too, and I
Yeah.
know you're getting away from red meat, but I did this pepper-encrusted New York strip.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I'm not going to do 2 of these. I'm just going to do 1 because I'll only eat part of this portion. I ate the whole thing that night. It was so good. I
Yeah.
mean, maybe the best steak I've cooked since I've gotten the grill.
Wow.
Oh, my gosh. All right, now we made everybody hungry.
I mean, hey, it's Sunday out there for people, so
Yeah.
maybe you've already grilled or you're still grilling. Who knows?
Well, and I did pick up, because we talk about Domestic Tuesdays.
Yeah.
I've had a shift in my universe. I used to cook on Sundays.
Yeah.
Like Sunday afternoons into the evening and do meal prep then.
Yeah.
The problem is that you about run out of food on Thursday,
Mm-hmm.
because you're eating Sunday,
It's true.
Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Yeah, Thursday's 5 days. And so what I've started to do is I've started doing the meal prep on Tuesday.
Yeah.
And I can do something quick on Sunday evening. Usually it's green beans and shrimp, or green beans and, like something for Amy to be able to pack for lunch.
Right.
But by the time I get our shopping done and I put the stuff away and then I prep the fridge for all the groceries that came in,
Mm-hmm.
and then I meal prep for the week, the dude is not getting his cleaning done.
Mm. So there's something that was falling behind then.
Well, I made promises. I did
Promises.
I did keep clean. So we had the choice of clean bathrooms or clean fridge. Now, understand, the fridge hadn't been cleaned out
Yeah.
for at least 3 months. And what I mean is like stuff pulled out, wiped down,
Right.
the works. The bathrooms were done 2 weeks ago. So the bathrooms.
So it's really not that.
oh,
The ball's not dropping.
well, it's dropping, but it's from 3 miles in the sky, and it hasn't come through the clouds. Yeah. So, anyway, yeah, that's a little bit of a, 30-minute talk about.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
I would just put that out there to people too. If they have things that have worked in their cook prep, or things that they're working on towards, whether if they're on keto, if they're on some other form of like low carb, or like what are the things that have been working for you, like throw it out there. Let's I mean, because to me it's interesting. I'm always looking at that. I mean, a lot of times I don't necessarily focus on the like how much fat is going to be in this or whatever, but I do go towards leaner meat, and so there's less fat, there's less whatever, but yeah.
Well, and ultimately, I mean, I'm convinced that no matter what it is when it comes to food,
Mm-hmm.
it's still about choice, right?
Oh yeah.
So, alcohol, same thing. Still about choice. If you're like swearing off alcohol and you're like, all right, I got to clean out everything and it's all gone from here. Well, now hold it. You can say it's gone from your house, which is the immediate, like, it's easy to reach,
Right.
right? But if you're going through a day where you're like, I can't get through the day without alcohol, guess what? Walgreens is a 2-minute drive, or whatever. I'm saying alcohol is so accessible.
Right.
Clearing it out of your house doesn't. You have to come to the determination where you're going to be like, I'm not going to have a drink, and then and then there's people who have 1 or 2, and it's not a big deal or whatever. But that's alcohol. Okay.
Right.
Food's the same way. We got 3 bags of chips
Uh-huh.
that are on the top shelf. I'm not throwing the chips out. You have to be able to say no to the chips.
Right.
Or
to actually, go by like, hey, let's use a serving size on this, which sometimes it's like 7 chips, but
right.
you're like, there's a limit.
Yeah.
I mean, there can be moderation.
Yeah.
Which is always the problem because moderation is hard.
Right.
Like you're looking at it and saying 7 chips, like that's 150 calories. I mean, that's crazy. I don't want just 7. I want at least 14.
Or half a bag,
Or
which is
half a
like
bag.
35 or a whole bag. Yeah. And then you start slopping that through whatever you're dredging your chip through, and
Right.
you add the sour cream based. So what I'm saying is you have to be able to say, no, that's off limits,
Right.
and that's not going to work. Again, people who've smoked weed, they lived in Illinois. They're like, you can get all the weed you want. Why, all right, yeah, but that's not my appetite, and so
Right.
saying no seems pretty easy,
Yeah.
and stuff. I really think, and Amy and I were talking about it this morning, that, really, the pandemic was and is, it's just funky. It
Yeah.
affects your head. It affects what's going on. Doesn't mean you're making good, healthy choices for your own person. And yeah, so that's all what this shift for me and my attention is. It's not a condemnation on anything. It's I think where I got to when people talk about getting to, like, have you reached your bottom? I'm like, no, I don't think I have. But
What's a bottom?
what I came to in regards to shifting with this, I got to the place where I just didn't feel comfortable in my own skin.
Yeah.
And so if that's my bottom when it comes to carbohydrates, let it be my bottom.
Yeah.
But it's just, yeah. So anyway.
And I think that's where it goes back to like personal, right? I mean,
Oh, yeah.
And people's body types are all different, and so when there's somebody who doesn't, put on weight, and you see them like eating a whole bunch, and you're like, wow, that's bad stuff for you, but yet at the same time, like their body type processes it differently, so then you can't really tell somebody else like, yeah, you're bad for this, when they're not really, putting on weight the same way you are.
Right.
So,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the reason why throwing out suggestions from everybody else is also helpful, because you're like, all right, so you might be a similar body type as somebody else, and you might process the same way, similar.
Yeah.
And, hey, I can throw some of those things in. Let's see how they affect me.
Yeah, yeah. And that's the whole thing here, is not a condemnation on you have to,
Right. Maybe you talked about choice, and that's
food
what it is.
food is fuel.
Right.
You need to eat.
Right.
If you don't eat, well, you can cut out eating, but don't cut out drinking water.
Right.
You got to have water
Yeah.
and really nutrition.
To live.
Yeah. So-
Water's necessary to live,
Yep.
especially in the summertime.
Oh man.
Like if you're in places where the heat rises significantly, looking at Arizona, you definitely would find yourself dehydrated quickly.
Yeah.
Because it's hot.
Yeah.
And yes, it is a dry heat, but it's still taking away your water from your body. So
you're good as long as you're sweating.
Right.
When you stop sweating and it's hot, you're behind.
Right. Yeah, and if you're already your tongue's dry, that means you're already dehydrated.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yep, drink water. So put those out there. All right, let's switch topics.
All right, right on.
So Steve, what's the topic we're going to next?
We're doing Fringe.
We're doing some Fringe for the next half.
Yeah.
All right. So we've got food and Fringe. Food and Fringe.
Oh, I like that.
I like some F words. F words are always
I
good.
know F words. Frolic.
So you were checking out a documentary recently, right?
Yeah, so I got caught up on Netflix in their new release. Now, again, as a nihilist,
Yeah.
I'm sick and tired of all this not releasing shit.
Oh, yeah. They do episodic, like, weekly release.
Oh man, I mean, like, one redeeming thing is Better Call Saul kicked back in.
Yeah, and it's almost done.
But it's grief worthy
Right.
because then it'll be done.
Right.
Now I'll be interested.
Are
Now,
you caught up with Saul?
I am.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was the last episode. Sad, you know. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah. But.
Then the other thing
Yeah.
is then I've got friends reaching out and they're like, "Hey, you should check out The Bear on Hulu."
Yeah.
And is it a spin-off from Shameless?
No.
Oh, and so it's
It's just the guy.
The
You
guy.
know, so Lip, who was on
Yeah.
Shameless, is on
The Bear. Bear.
Different character, though.
Yeah. All right.
But it is in Chicago. It's based just like Shameless, even though Shameless was only portions shot here, but it was based in. I mean, it was supposed to be all Chicago, but they also shot it mostly in L.A.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it's the same for The Bear, but it is based in Chicago.
Nice.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so, I have gotten to a place where media, I'm just satiated with media. I mean, like, I'm like, oh, gosh, you know, there doesn't seem anything like, and I'm working through the Umbrella Academy.
Yeah.
Which, have you been through any of that?
I have. I'm on the last season. I just haven't completed this one that just was released.
Yeah, but what episode on last season are you?
Probably.
I mean, have you seen Elliot's change?
Yes.
Okay, because you were wondering.
Right.
How
I was wondering how they were going to handle his transition.
And so, so I'm working through that. Now, the Footloose thing in the first episode.
Yeah.
Like, I want to just go back and watch that on repeat.
Right.
The dance scene. That was fantastic. But
I'm on episode 7.
And it's okay. I mean, it really is. It's okay.
Right.
But for wherever my flavor is right now, so I'm struggling with media.
Yeah, I feel like the Umbrella Academy this season, I think that they struggled.
I would agree.
I mean, because the last, the first seasons were really good. Once you understood and got into it, that's from my perspective. But this season, I think that they were still trying to define. I mean, and I don't know. It's kind of missed for me. But
yeah, and I think I'm on episode 4, and I really and we've shared our grievance with Hollywood and directors, producers, and all this stuff. But the Umbrella Academy really did well with season 1 and 2. They probably should have stopped.
Yeah.
Like, this is making media for the sake of monetizing media.
Because it was popular.
Yeah.
The people watched it, so they said, hey, let's, with Netflix dropping some of its viewership. And
yeah.
Yeah.
So, but D.B. Cooper.
Yeah.
The infamous gentleman who, and to this date, is the only person who hijacked a plane, got away with $200,000, which would be the equivalent to $1 million in our current currency.
Yeah.
Fiat, as it may be. And I think it's 4 episodes or maybe 5. Like, it's not super long, but so anyway, it's just the conspiracy theories. Ultimately, spoiler alert, in my humble opinion, they had the guy, but because he had been involved in the CIA, they let the guy go. That's my opinion. But man, if you want there's a lot of options out there.
And this would be the same character, like, is it the not Catch Me If You Can? Is it like the Leonardo DiCaprio?
Yeah, and I don't know if, that might be a really good question to ask.
Yeah, I don't think it's Catch Me If You Can, because I think that's the magician one. But there's the other one that has Tom Hanks and Leonardo DiCaprio. And I think it was, I thought it was based on that same, oh, it is Catch Me If You Can. I should have just trusted myself. But that's, I don't know, I don't think it's based on that same character.
No, it's not. The true story behind Catch Me If You Can is based on Master of Deception. I think I caught the name up here. Frank, The Life of Frank Abagnale.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not based on D.B. Cooper.
Okay.
Yeah. So I had heard of D.B. Cooper. I know that since he's not been found, technically the case is still open. There's still an indictment out for his arrest.
Yeah.
Based on the amount of time that has passed, D.B. Cooper is probably dead.
Right.
And you'll have to go through that whole thing. Follow the money.
Yep.
So anyway, D.B. Cooper.
Yeah.
There's that, and just the unknown and how people are drawn to the unknown. And so, as we talk about some Fringe things, you got any, since the last time we talked?
Yeah.
How about we do a catch-up? Phil, have you had any interactions with aliens?
I have not currently had any interactions with aliens
since
the last updates.
Yeah, I just wanted to check in and see.
Right, and you any?
Actually, no.
Okay.
Not even in my dreams.
All right, so they're not even interacting there.
Yeah. My dreams have been really weird of late, and sometimes it can have to do with what I was watching on TV before I went to sleep.
Yeah.
But oftentimes, I just want to do a shout out to the people who listen. You all make frequent cameo appearances in my dreams. Yeah.
That's fun.
Not really.
Not really.
The dreams are weird.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, but it's okay. I don't mind that you show up and hang out in my dreams, folks. It's okay.
Yeah.
What about Bigfoot? Have you seen a Bigfoot?
Well, I did go to the Brookfield Zoo on Monday, and they had an Ice Age exhibit where they had a significantly larger Yeti Bigfoot replica. So that would be the only sighting of that I have seen of a Bigfoot either. Yep.
Wow. Yeah, you've kind of been doing some adventures of late.
Did some adventuring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and when's the last time you've been out to the Pacific Northwest?
Probably when I was in high school.
All right. So, folks, do you see what I'm pointing out here? How about Canada? Have you been to Canada recently?
Nope, not also. Probably a little bit before.
Probably the
high school,
closest terrain that could ever hold a Bigfoot that you've been to would be the Appalachian Mountains.
Yeah. And that would have been, Smokies.
Little Smokies.
Right. And those, I don't know if they have any, I think that they must have had some, because it's the woods, and every time you have a woods, you also have sightings of Bigfoot, so, or at least people saying it so that they can generate some tourists. Whatever's going to bring in the tourists. If it's going to be a Bigfoot sighting, then sight it away. But so no, I haven't, and I think it's almost a year since I was down in Tennessee. So
yeah.
So it's been a little bit there, but no, still even there, did not see any Bigfoot either. So
All right.
no sightings.
All right. Let's see. We're not really too worried about the Loch Ness Monster.
No.
And, so, for the record, I mean, I keep putting it out there. One of the things out of the Dave Grohl book, Storytellers, is that he went to a clairvoyant in Australia. Did we talk about this?
I don't think so.
He went to a clairvoyant in Australia, and this person basically said that he had a blue aura around his hands, that he was really gifted in the ability to see into things and interpret things.
Yeah.
And said to him, hey, by the way, they're not just dreams. Like, he didn't even say anything, and he's like, what do you mean? And she's like, well, your UFO encounters and your encounters with aliens aren't dreams. You feel like you're dreaming, but these are actual events.
Wow.
Now, you can say that, but again, like we said before, Foo Fighters is a slang used out of World War II for pilots who saw UFOs, and so she could have put all that together and knew, like, who knows?
Sure.
Yeah.
So kind of the, just the reading of people instead of the reading of...
Yeah.
Right.
But, hey.
Yeah. So who knows? I mean, so it would feed into your psyche then as well. Like, you're like, oh, I mean... Like, these dreams, are they real? Are they real encounters? And he would be in the upper northwest, right? I mean, he still lives around there currently, I think. Or is he in L.A. now?
No, I think his home is actually in Virginia.
Oh, so he went back there to east.
I think that's where he posted up. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I think he came from there originally.
Then spent some time in the Northwest, and then back through. Huge influence by his family, and I believe it was his quote-unquote, initially in the story I heard it was his cousin, but really it ended up being one of his mom's best friends, so a female friend who had children. It's like if your parents have close adult, and like... Back in the day,
right,
you would call them like Uncle Tom and Aunt Sally.
Mm-hmm.
That was a and things. So it was quote unquote cousin, but not really a cousin, not a bloodline cousin.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think that the alien thing is always. I mean, so we talked when we talked about this. Last year, on a Fringe episode, I think we mentioned the release of that, 1,500-page document by the CIA. A whole bunch of it is redacted, but they're basically saying, like there's UFOs. Then, what was it? Even a year ago, 2021. There was another report that came out that they said that they couldn't explain 143 of the 144 sightings it examined. So they're saying there was some, I think one that was like a weather balloon, that was definitely something that was identified. But other than that, they had a whole bunch of sightings. There's the military ones. I think the Navy put out one. The Air Force have come across things as well. Unidentified aerial phenomenon, UAPs instead of UFOs. And so in 2021, they had that kind of fuzzy UFO report. The Pentagon said, informally referred to as the chief scientist, as efforts to assemble a larger team were underway. And it was not a full-time position, right? So they were putting somebody in this realm of, we're going to study these UAPs a little bit differently than maybe we have in the past. And so this is it's somewhat recent.
Yeah.
So that all of these things are also, and maybe it's, again, I think we mentioned before, like, this also could be a smokescreen for them, trying, because people have talked about these things for like generations. So like, alien talk is not new. Like, it's just now, there's still more people who are asking about it again. I mean, it just becomes this almost like a wave, like what becomes the most popular thing to talk about.
Yeah.
And, UFOs or UAPs are often a topic of conversation. What does this mean? How does this affect us? What is, like, in a lot of the scientific, at least the biological scientists are saying, like, yeah, I mean, there could be life, but not how we think it is across the planets. There might be something that's living in those places, but it's not necessarily intelligent life. And I still would probably look at it and say, I mean, is there actual evidence of, like, a something that's bigger? Now, I go to that, and have you seen the new pictures from the James Webb telescope?
No.
I mean, they're pretty significant as far.
Why don't you pull it up and I'll flash that on the screen.
So if we go, let me see how these will. So these are new pictures. I mean, and it took them a long time, but there's some of them. I'm trying to see. No, not these ones are new right there. But there was one picture that actually showed something, like they showed almost like a black hole thing that was actually, they had 4 kind of different things, almost whether it was a planet or whether they were singular galaxies, but they were being kind of almost like sucked into this black hole. And I think that's where, I'm trying to see if I can find that. Was it this one? No, it doesn't look like that one. It's very similar to, like, this one, I think, is. So this they won't let me pull. Yes, I just want to look at this photo, but
I can give people
yeah. So right here, so there
5 new awe-inspiring images of the universe.
Yeah. So this thing right here is where, like, in the kind of center of this, they're talking about being a black hole. Is that they're also there's pictures and things that are occurring where I think there was one saying that they've seen a universe or a galaxy that is one of the oldest galaxies or universes like that, that they've ever pictured or ever seen as well. So there's all kinds of things that we are finding, I think, in the universe that we didn't know existed before.
Yeah.
Based on these pictures and how, I mean, it took them, I think, 10 years in order for them, this camera to even, to get it functioning as it's sent and traveled, right? So there's all kinds of stuff that were the pictures that we're seeing from this, and yet there was also, I mean, from what we know, there was no spaceships buzzing around. There still was no intelligent life that flew by the camera and gave us a picture of anything else. So does it mean that there isn't? No, right? I mean, that's not what it means. But there's I think that there's stuff that we are always learning about this whole process, about being able to say we probably know less than what we know very little about the expanse of the things around us.
Yeah. And New Out, 3 days ago, just released.
Yeah.
I did a search on the UAPs in Chicago.
Yeah.
But in early June, this is an article that was written by Leonard David, published 3 days ago.
Yeah.
On space.com. In early June, NASA announced that it's commissioning an independent study on unidentified aerial phenomena, UAPs, as UFOs have recently been rebranded. The intent is to move the scientific understanding of UAP forward, said Thomas Zurbuchen, NASA's Associate Administrator for Science.
Yeah.
NASA believes the tools of scientific discovery are powerful and apply here also. We have access to a broad range of observations of Earth from space, and that is the lifeblood of scientific inquiry. We have tools and the team who can help us improve our understanding of what is unknown. That's the very definition of what science is. That's what we do. Now, there is, and I'm not going to read the whole article, but you can look that article up.
Yeah.
The scientists are very, very positive about this move from NASA, or with NASA. NASA should be congratulated for its willingness to investigate, said Robert Powell, executive board member of the Scientific Coalition for UAP Studies. And they basically say that the main thing that they're really looking for is scientific rigor and transparency. Now, up until this point, and this, we can set this on the shelf.
Yeah.
But we can go down the road of conspiracy, and I have an illustration of what could seemingly be conspiracy, but maybe in its unveiling, a move for safety. Okay? Just remind me, because I'm sure I'm going to forget it by then. Win-win development. Avi Loeb, head of Harvard's Galileo project, said a systematic scientific search for evidence of extraterrestrial technological artifacts. The Galileo project is currently assembling its first telescope system on the roof of the Harvard College Observatory, planning an expedition to retrieve fragments from the first known interstellar meteor, studying satellite data on UAP, and designing a space mission to rendezvous on the next anomalous interstellar object that zooms into our solar system. So now, all of a sudden, we have flashbacks to Bruce Willis and Liv Taylor on,
Right.
What's the name of that movie?
Armageddon. Yeah.
Overall, the outcome is gratifying and represents a win-win. When he summarizes his thoughts about NASA announcing the NASA announcement, he wrote an essay, "Imitation is the sincerest form of flattery." And I've not opened that up to read that, but Loeb is Loeb, is the gentleman who is currently at Harvard in regards to this.
Yeah, he's an astrophysicist, which would make sense.
Yeah. And so, based on this, though, and I missed my... okay. The Galileo project is now likely to receive a boost to its funding from wealthy individuals and foundations with which I am in close contact, he wrote in the essay. But most importantly, the project's scientific mission narrative is now echoed within the government. It does not matter who tells the truth as long as it's being told. So I think, when it comes to UFOs and it comes to sightings, and again, we would love, that when you start talking about Fringe, I don't know, like my brain and the way it works.
Yeah.
So there's UFOs, or UAPs, and you're talking about extraterrestrial, or you're talking about what is happening that is not human activity. Then you flip that thing around, and then it moves to me into the paranormal, in regards to spirits, ghosts, the afterlife,
Right.
showing itself, or at least interacting, or the part of that, and we'll not get into that. But I watched a movie the other night, that 12, I think it's 12 Strong is the name of the movie. And basically it was a movie based on the true story, based on the facts of the 9/11 attack. And the characters, Chris Hemsworth is U.S. Army Captain Mitch Nelson. But you can go to New York, and you can go to where the Twin Towers are, and now they have erected a statue of a horse with a military person riding on the back.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, this, you know what? This movie brought me to a place where I'm like, man, I'm grateful for these people that put their lives on the line, And while that's the case, what I will say is that there's the cover-up part. While this was going on, nobody was told about it. There was no fanfare for them. All 12 men that went in came home alive, and it was their assignment. And so conspiracy, secrecy, the veiling of truth for the sake of safety.
Yeah.
I mean, there's all these things, and we can churn up the waters by working through stuff. And I mean, like, I could go all that,
Mm-hmm.
like, what's the government really covering up?
Right.
And gosh, I think that some of the unidentified flying objects are cover-ups. I really do.
Right.
I don't think it's extraterrestrial,
Right.
necessarily. But
Yeah, I was just looking up that Loeb guy, and he said that there are some people like the guy at Yale who's an astrophysicist is saying, like, hey, we applaud you for being able to look at this, that it's a topic that has often been cloudy or foggy, and we couldn't have done this 10 years ago even, to have somebody from you're talking about Harvard. You can't, like Harvard wouldn't have had somebody who is an astrophysicist and let's talk about aliens.
right.
And he's like, but then there's also, and they don't cite anybody, but they said that there are other astronomy people who are saying, like, he's tarnishing this, he's like, these astronomers or astrophysicists, or, they've been trying to gain some, like, credibility. And he's like, and now this guy is bringing up aliens and talking about aliens everywhere. And it's kind of tarnishing the whole thing again. So it's like, so that you get people who are trying to be able to bash him, people who are like, no, he's like, let him go. I mean, like, we're dealing with other things, and so why can't the science be broad? Like, if he's going to talk about this or study this or get into this, why is it that we should tell him no? And I think that's a big portion of pretty much everything that happens, right? So somebody's studying this and they're like, oh, like, now you're going into something that, is going to give us less credibility. Or you're like, some people are like, yeah, cool, do that, and it's so apparently he's not going to stop. I mean, he's raising money still, and I think he's trying to continue to carry out the research on that. So,
yeah. And so if people are wondering out there, there are, I mean, other than what would be classified as kooks, there are people who are in respected positions
Yeah.
that are doing the research.
Right.
I like the term artifact. That he's looking for artifacts of, and
Right.
stuff, and
Almost like an archaeologist,
yeah.
astrophysicist.
Yeah,
Right.
and the idea of archaeology in space. I mean, and then again, my mind goes to the opposites, and I'm like, think of all the discoveries that are happening, under the water and stuff, and like the Gold Shore of Gold Coastline in Florida, where people, I mean, literally buy houses there so that they can search the beaches for these, treasures that wash up on the beach and stuff. So I don't know. It's just cool. I think one thing that we both can agree on, and that is the curiosity of humanity. I like it.
Mm-hmm.
What are you curious about out there?
Right.
Yeah.
So it's another topic which I'm still fringe.
Sure.
So I don't know. Are you a TikToker?
No.
Not creating it, but ever
No.
watched them before?
I mean, I know of the app,
Yeah.
but I don't have
So
TikTok.
like there was, I think initially, I mean, like TikTok was a whole bunch of people just dancing, and I'm like, I ain't got time for that. Like, I don't really care.
Doon.
Right. But
And ain't got
because-
time for that.
Right, because this actually bleeds into much of the things that we've also talked about on here before, is that there is a TikTok account that there's a person, they don't know if it's a man or a woman, that claims to be a time traveler. And they're coming on there, and they have this whole thing that has, they're talking about predictions and things that occur in 2022. I mean, and that's the way that you find out if like these people are actually, I mean, like it's the same thing when somebody says they're a prophet. Well, like if you're a prophet and you're not right, then you're not a prophet. Duh.
Right.
Same thing here. Right. So if he's saying that there's things that are going to occur in 2022 based on his knowledge of time travel, and he's got things like there's going to be a new species that it's going to emerge, and apparently it happens in 2022. Yeah. So this supposed time traveler on here brings up, I mean, much of what we would say is very fringe, because you can't study it necessarily. I mean, but it's like it has time travel, but also, hey, this time traveler is trying to be able to give us, information on things that are going to occur. And so there's like, I mean, so all kinds of stuff. I mean, the things that October 3rd of 2022, creatures known as stalkers will appear around the globe. Yeah, so just kind of some crazy stuff. They said that there's going to be a terrifying alien discovery will be made in August. So that's going to be coming up here. So you're also going to find out, yeah.
Wow.
So
I really appreciate you opening up this new thing.
right. So it is on the fringe, obviously, because we're talking about time travel. But it's I think some of them are fascinating. Some of them are like, all right, because they said they're a time traveler from 2027. So it's not even that far in advance.
Huh.
But
Wow.
yeah. So I don't know. I figured with the time travel part, you might be interested in it.
Yeah.
To take a look. I mean, and you don't even have to go and get TikTok in order to find it. You can just Google it.
Oh, yeah. I just Googled TikTok time traveler, and I mean, there's stuff on Reddit. There's stuff where it's explained. There's stuff where it's debunked. It's like,
Yeah.
But again, hot topic, right?
Right.
Yeah. I think my thing about time is then again, this is where I would tie in UFO, the differences between UFOs
Yeah.
and the paranormal. In that, like, in one instance, we're talking about what is out there in regards to extraterrestrial life.
Yeah.
The other is a supernatural occurrence or a spiritual unveiling of like the afterlife.
Yeah.
And so in my time travel theory, I'm dealing with traveling through time within the spiritual realm. I'm not talking about physically traveling
actual time travel
through time.
Right.
And obviously, historically, we have, and we talked about this a few weeks ago. One of my ahas where I was like, "Wow!" So if regret is in your rear view mirror, then what is the potential or possibilities of the future going as you look through the windshield? It's
right.
a form of, I don't know, is it an allegory or, it's just a picture of how do you move in your mind into that if you're dwelling on the regrets of the past and how that can affect you.
Mm-hmm.
The human mind also has tendencies to focus on the negative things.
Right.
And not the positive. But looking backwards and looking to remember the positive is a good exercise. But what are you involved in currently today that has you looking forward, and what are the positive plans that you're making? And that's not any mumbo jumbo new age bullshit.
Right.
That is how are we dealing with it in our minds? Our minds affect our actions.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times in psychology and psychiatry, when there's problems with the mind, they go into a cognitive behavioral problem solving, and they say, let's move you into action and your mind will follow.
Mm-hmm.
So if you've been involved in habits that have created harm in your life,
mm-hmm.
one of the ways to change how your mind thinks is to be able to put your life into action in non-harmful ways to be able to change how your mind's working.
Yeah.
Okay? Do it the opposite way too. By and this is one of the things, self-awareness, which we stumbled on and talked about narcissists and their self-awareness in the last episode, which, by the way, if you've not listened to Season 6, Episode 3, you're missing out. I would call it a crown jewel in the gemstone of cut daisies and unicorns. I mean, it was just, boom, good. And, but, then, just for the record, my idea of time travel does not have anything to do with my physical body moving from one place to another.
Right.
That does not mean that there's a part of me that can't move into what it will become.
Right.
Based on my belief system of what is in me, and that the what is in me is present in all time. Not when it occurs, but right now.
Right.
So by tapping into that timeline, then I'm able to affect what happens in the future based on what's needed or what's already been predetermined. And that gets into the whole, do we really have free will?
It's true. Yep.
So, it's been a while since I time traveled.
Right. Yeah, we haven't even really mentioned it. I mean, and there's the difference. I realize that with what you're talking about and what,
sure,
this person's actually, maneuvering, as well they say, maneuvering space and time.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, but, I mean, like, if you go back to the 70s, and for the sake of Star Trek, And you look at those guys hitting their comms and talking, over or doing the flip phone thing to be able to walkie. I mean, people with a lot of resources are working towards those ends.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, and as it's been stated on several advertisements, we hold more technology in the palm of our hands in our smartphones than was ever used in the first space shuttle mission.
Yeah.
So, which, I mean, I don't doubt that the space shuttle went up or orbited.
Right.
And rest in peace, or blew up in the middle of the sky.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
That's dark.
It is dark.
Yeah.
It's dark.
What else you got for us?
Yeah. I just, let me see what that one came to mind when we were talking about Fringe. I thought there was something else. There was something else on my horizon. But now I think I got lost in the time traveler thing, and then
Yeah.
but
Well, that's cool.
I mean, black holes, and I think that's people are going to start, testing the whole worm theories, and does a black hole actually lead to non-existence, or does it actually lead to something else, like another section, other universes, whatever it might be? Does a black hole go somewhere? So,
well, what's really sad,
yeah,
is the idea of the anesthetic of culture
yeah,
may actually be limiting what could be discovered, because it's numbed down people who could have become so much more. So, I mean, like, we're looking for another Einstein, another Steve Jobs. We're looking for, hey, what about that Ponzi scheme in regards to the lady in Silicon Valley who was...
Oh, yeah.
we watched that documentary.
Yeah, it was good. I saw it.
Yeah.
Was it The Dropout? I think that's what it was called, right?
Wasn't it something about research?
Yeah, but I think she was a dropout. I think that's the reason why they called
she dropped out of college. She was
Right.
submitting copyright, or what is it when you have a plan that you don't want people to copy? Yeah. But she was trying to put together a blood analyzation for blood tests, and
Elizabeth Holmes.
yeah, Elizabeth Holmes.
Yeah.
Not to be confused with Tom Cruise's ex-wife, Katie Holmes, but Elizabeth. And man, she's eerie.
She is.
She is eerie. But, I mean, that's a train wreck you just don't want to look away from.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was...
What was the name of the movie?
Well, the series is called The Dropout. It's on Hulu. If that's the one you were talking... I mean, there might be another one that's based on...
No, it was Elizabeth Holmes...
But are you talking about an actual documentary on her?
Yeah.
Or because they actually have that series on Hulu, which is based on that. So it's a real, I mean, it's a drama based on it.
Oh, I didn't even know about that.
Yeah, that one's pretty good though. You should watch that.
So, yeah, movies. The Inventor on HBO.
I think that's where I initially
Out
watched
for Blood.
it. Yeah. I saw her story on that one on HBO, and then this one, The Dropout, just came out early 2022, so like, yeah, so that one's relatively new, which I think I was thinking that they got some Emmy nods, but I'm not seeing. Yeah. But I think it's interesting, which, also can be a fringe, because, I mean, she was talking about technology that was going to be able to do things that people were like, that's not possible. And unfortunately, it also wasn't possible.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what, though? Where I ended up landing is of that she's a pioneer. I think I think in The Inventor, Out for Blood, they preface that whole thing based on Edison, and how that Edison really didn't even have a working light bulb before he said that he had conquered it, and they kept working toward it.
Yeah.
I think the idea is there. I think, who knows what happens. I did not hear about her sentencing in regards to the fraud.
Yeah.
Which wire fraud is bullshit. They're like, oh, yeah, just because it crossed state lines, then now it's a federal offense. So just for our listeners, in my head, I used one of those F words. It's a little too close to home.
Right.
Yeah, so.
But I think that the idea of, what she sold was an idea, and people bought it. So, and I think that's, that's where it came from with the Ponzi scheme, right? Is they're selling an idea. They're selling something of a, prediction. They're selling, and if people can buy into the idea, then would you call it successful? It looked successful.
So basically, in The Inventor, what they talked about is the idea in Silicon Valley about these startups.
Mm-hmm.
Is there somebody has an idea, and it's going out, 100 yards, and hammering a stick into the yard, and saying, "That's the idea. We hope we can get there."
Mm-hmm.
And then how many people can you get, with all of these hedge funds and investor funds and capital finance people and all that stuff? How do you get them involved?
Right.
And the thing is that it was this case that gave pause for the investors in Silicon Valley, that because of them, quote unquote, doing research and not having projections or anything like that, then they just keep this thing rolling. How long can you keep this going? Well, you can keep it going as long as you can keep money rolling in.
Exactly.
And some people put a hard stop. Her deal that was the turn was when she got Walgreens involved with $300 million, and based on that $300 million, it was able to allow them to keep on rolling and going.
Right.
Well, so as people are, and she's getting money for speaking events, and then heralded as all these things, and but then now there's an empty building that sits, and who's going to use it for what?
Yeah, and I think that's where people started pushing to be able to say, we're investing in more than an idea, though. We need you to make it physical. And that's where with Walgreens came in, and they're like, we need a product here. So they built these little stations that were supposed to be right inside Walgreens. They were going to be able to do this and to be able to give them, test results almost immediate, right? So get it done or get it done quick. And that's when this push towards big concept idea has to become actual.
But it's all tied to the money.
Right.
She wouldn't have done that if she wasn't running out of funds.
Right.
And the dream wasn't going to come to an end.
Right.
And it was the publicity of that happening. So all of a sudden they went from this advertised finger prick and the fear of needles into this thing that was, and, you know, here's the deal. I don't hold anything against her for the idea. And what I will say is, give it 50 to 100 years. When the aliens land and we have better technology, I bet this thing becomes a reality. See what I did there?
You're bringing it back around.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
How about you? What do you think is the next thing that we don't even know about that's going to be developed? And, I was reminded in that war movie that, oh, no, it wasn't the war movie. I saw, is it Shia LaBeouf?
Shia LaBeouf, yeah.
Yeah, LaBeouf.
But which one did you see?
Eagle Eye. And it's about, and it's got Moynihan in as the actress who's his co-star, and of course they fall in love. To me, that's like a thriller Hallmark movie.
And that's based on like Patriot Act stuff with hijacking all the cameras of the
that whole thing like that. But I mean, basically, it was like, hey, and by the way, the government has the ability to listen to everything that you say through your phone. The only even if your phone is turned off, they still can activate the microphone. So the only way that your microphone in your phone is not picking up your conversations that you're having is if you take the battery out. Boom. Mic drop.
Right.
But I tease about thriller Hallmark because Hallmark hasn't put anything together like this. And yes, I am well aware. But what I will say is anytime a movie ends up with a kiss and the couple gets together.
Yeah.
Hallmark.
Lifetime. Yeah.
Hashtag can you catch the killer? That's a couple of my favorites. I like Hallmark movies that are based around horses. I like Hallmark movies that are based around food, bakeries, chefs. And I like Hallmark movies that are mysteries. They're corny as whatever. And people are like, really? Hey.
That's why I try to stay away from Hallmark.
Hey, wait. I'm a product of my environment. If your partner liked Hallmark movies, you would watch them with them too.
Right.
If you want to maintain partnership.
It's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I've been able to steer Heather a little bit away from there. So
yeah.
Sometimes I have to give in other areas, but Hallmark hasn't been one that we've had to negotiate. So,
yeah, there you go, man.
All right, I've been able to stay away from there.
Yeah. Well, you know what? My head can get heavy enough with a lot of thinking about other stuff that every once in a while a break. For example, don't watch this movie. Mm-hmm. Please don't watch this movie. It's horrible.
Yeah.
On so many levels. But the Chips movie that was made.
Oh, did it have Dax Shepard
and Michael Pena?
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't watch it. I mean, it's like it's a rated R Dumb and Dumber.
Oh.
Yeah. I mean, like there's it
wasn't good.
It wasn't good.
Yeah. So there's a bad review for you.
Blech.
Something, if you ever come across it, which I don't see very many things that are still promoting that, but
yeah.
But just in case you come across, you're like, oh, I didn't know they made a movie of this. Yep, steer clear.
Yeah, that's what we need. Yeah,
that's why you don't know.
Yeah.
Well, Phil. Yeah, so they're putting out there for everybody else. What do you think that the things that we should, the ideas that we should have, what's coming up next? What's on the fringe that we don't know about?
Yeah.
Put it out there.
Yeah.
Let us know.
Yeah. So
I'd
love to hear about your UFO sightings.
All right.
Is anyone planning a trip out to Skinwalker Ranch? You know, or Blind Frog Ranch?
I don't know that one.
Blind Frog Ranch is in the same area of Utah.
Oh.
Yeah.
So it must be some kind of epicenter of sorts.
Yeah, and they're looking for, and I think all of this comes back to the lost Aztecian gold. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Which, if you go back to some of the early Alien movies, it was the Aztecs in South America that were tied into the aliens who bounced between Egypt and South America, because that's where the smart people lived.
Yeah. Well, if I'm not mistaken, I think that the last Indiana Jones of the Crystal Skull, whatever that one was, it was not good, but but I think it was based on.
Wasn't it Crystal Skull #2?
No, that was there's Temple of Doom. There is. Now you're making me think. There's the Last Crusade.
And there's an Indiana Jones 5 coming out in 2023.
There is, yeah.
Wow.
Right.
Yeah, Raiders of the Lost Ark, 81.
That's right.
Temple of Doom, 84.
Yep. Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. And that one brings in aliens.
2008.
Yeah.
And Indiana Jones 5.
And I'm not sure what this one's going to reveal, because I think, Harrison Ford is like 80, I think. I don't even.
And it says Ford returns to star in the latest installment.
Yeah, he just turned 80 in July. July 13th, he turned 80.
You know what? I'd like to pull that off. If I could be an
action movie at 80?
No, if I could be my perky self.
Yeah.
At the age of 80. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just, was looking at the cast. There's some, familiar, character people of Indiana 5, both with Harrison Ford. That's Mads Mikkelsen and Antonio Banderas. Phoebe Waller-Bridge. I've heard of her. Is she the one that was from Flea?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't know. But either way, we're getting off topic. But yeah, so I think that the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull dealt with aliens, and I believe it dealt with the Aztecs. So you're not far off with a lot of that theory, and maybe it's something that we can dig into later.
Yeah. Sounds good. Well, hey, everybody. Happy Sunday evening.
Happy Sunday.
Happy Monday if you're getting to us now. Happy Tuesday. Happy Wednesday. Always remember to take off Thursday for a margin of sanity and time and space in your life when you can be able to be like, I can't think about cut daisies and unicorns anymore. Because
True.
Trailer Friday's coming.
It is.
All right. Well, that's a good chat.
Food and Fringe, everybody. Food and Fringe. Hashtag.
It's the food and the fringe. Get you some heavy whipping cream.
Uh-huh.
We out.